So guys, today is an interesting day. I've managed to collaborate with concept creator, and together we've got some exclusive renders of the new Samsung Galaxy Note 8. All the features are all but confirmed, and these renders are actually going to reveal some pretty interesting things about the upcoming smartphone. So with that being said, let's get started. So, a few things to note. First of all, the fingerprint scanner is still in a little bit of an awkward position. The Galaxy S8 did get a lot of complaints about this, so it's a bit of a shame to see that Samsung hasn't necessarily responded. Having said that, they have made one change. Whereas on the S8, the fingerprint scanner is directly next to the camera, with the new Note 8, they've actually placed the heart rate sensor in between the two. So if you do miss the fingerprint sensor, at least you're not going to smudge your lens. So whilst a lot of people were hoping for a screen-embedded fingerprint scanner, it doesn't look like that's going to be happening with the Galaxy Note 8. When Qualcomm originally announced its technology, it did say it'd be available in smartphones starting from early 2018. So more than likely we'll see it on the Galaxy S9. And speaking of the heart rate sensor, it's actually been there for a very long time, but no one really takes advantage of it. Ever since the Galaxy Note 4, Samsung has been placing a heart rate sensor on the back of its smartphones. And that has actually more use than just the fitness aspect of it. For example, if you're taking a selfie and you've got one hand wrapped around the smartphone, you can actually place your finger on the heart rate sensor and it'll detect that and then take the photo, which is actually a lot easier than craning your thumb around the front. So looking at the final renders, we can also see Samsung doesn't seem to have changed its finish since the S8. And this is good and bad news. On one hand, it does mean that we're going to have, hopefully, Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back, and that is a strong, sturdy piece of technology. But on the other hand, this is far from the most practical finish to have. Whilst it does look fairly premium when it's clean, if you compare it to the Huawei P10 and what they've done here with their Hyper Diamond Cut finish, it is just nowhere near as practical. The Hyper Diamond Cut finish not only feels good and looks good, but it's also extremely grippy and doesn't attract any fingerprints whatsoever. It just makes a whole lot more sense. Now, looking at the front of the phone, we can see a whole array of sensors. 6 to be precise. And why would we possibly want 6 sensors on the front of the phone? Well, chances are Samsung isn't doing it for nothing. So looking at the Galaxy S8, there are only 4. And across the entire internet, no one source seems to have come to a conclusion on what these extra sensors are for. Now, in my personal opinion, this could be one of two things. Samsung could be building a dual front camera. And whilst that might be a bit of a surprise, it actually makes a lot of sense. One of the main things people love about having dual cameras on the rear of a smartphone is portrait mode. Imagine being able to do the same thing with your selfie camera. And the other option is an improved way to unlock your smartphone. So with the Galaxy Note 7, Samsung introduced the iris scanner, and it was a really innovative feature, and in the right lighting conditions, it really worked. But unfortunately, that same thing is the problem. It required a good amount of lighting, and for half the times you're unlocking your smartphone, that just isn't the case. And considering the fact that the fingerprint scanner doesn't have a good position, we actually need there to be a better primary way of getting into the device. And therefore, it's quite possible that those extra circles on top could be there so that the phone can better detect your face. One of them might be a flash so it can illuminate your face in darker conditions, or there could even be a secondary iris scanner, one which works better in lower lighting conditions. So there is another thing to take away from this. Turning the phone round and looking at the rear, you can see that as well as the heart rate sensor, fingerprint sensor and the flash, we've now got a dual camera system. And all of a sudden, because we've got so many components on the rear of the phone, it's starting to look a little bit less like a classy object and a little bit more like a Star Wars prop. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people will like this kind of new badass design language, but other people, the minimalists among you, the kind of people who might buy an iPhone for example, are probably less likely to like it. So guys, that's what we know about the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. I've got plenty more videos coming up on the smartphone, and I also should be able to get an early hands-on, all being well. With that being said, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.